Thank you for tuning in to the best parenting show on the internet, Post Daily Dose.
It's the Post. It's the Post. It's the Post. The Post Daily Dose. It's the Post. It's the Post. It's the Post. The Post Daily Dose. It's the Post. It's the Post.
Hey, good afternoon, Facebook family, and welcome to another episode of Post Daily Dose with me, your trusted parenting advisor, faithful guide and servant on the healing journey. What's my name? Big Papa Brian+Post. Hope everyone is doing amazing today. What is today? Today is Wednesday. Wonderful Wednesday, whimsical Wednesday. You may wonder why I always have a hard time keeping up with the days of the week. Well, usually when I'm really on, I'm on all the time, and I work pretty much every day. And so my days tend to run together. And then when I'm in California, I travel, like I'm in one area one week, and then I'm in another area another week. And it just all kind of gets confusing. And I don't really watch the news, and I don't read the newspapers unless it's the USA Today when I'm going to the airport. So I just don't keep up with that kind of stuff. And so, I catch the day, obviously, when I am, looking on my phone, but I don't pay that much attention. So anyway, every day is a good day in my book, and every day that you show up and you and I get to chop it up for a minute is just another day for us to be grateful and to feel blessed. So hello there, Mimi. Today I thought we would continue on our teen series, the Post Daily Dose teen series. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about understanding your teen's blueprints, because that in many circumstances for you all who are parenting teenagers, adopted and foster teenagers specifically, with early traumas that you may not really fully comprehend. Now, if you could be a biological parent of a teenager and have a little bit of you should have a much better idea about your teenager's blueprints than, an adopted or foster family. So, this is more oriented towards, hello there, Cynthia. This is more oriented towards the adopted and foster community of teenagers, parents parenting teenagers. In fact, I had a dad who sent me a text today and was just letting me know that he tried something that I had suggested, and he had a really good he said, I had a really good interaction today by trying something that you suggested. So thank you for that. So that was cool. So here's the thing. A lot of times when there's chaos in the teenagers, hey, somebody threw some stars at me and it didn't even show up. Let's see, where's that at? That's Jenny. Thank you so much, Jenny DeMarco. Hello there, La. And I don't know why my feed's not scrolling. Usually it scrolls. I don't usually have to scroll myself. So a lot of times when there's chaos with teenagers, what happens as adopted and foster parents is we take the behavior personally. And we do that as parents. We do that almost consistently with all of our children. It doesn't matter if they're biological, foster, or adopted. We have a tendency to take behaviors personally. And I've talked about that before, where the reason we take things personally is because it triggers our amygdala. Our behaviors trigger our amygdala, and our amygdala looks for a threat. And when our amygdala senses a threat, then it opens the brainstem. And so literally, it's hard to not take something personally for that very simple neurologic reason. Your amygdala views the behavior as a threat, which makes you feel threatened, therefore makes it very personal to you, sends you into survival, makes it very personal. So teasing that out is always very challenging. But the other thing that people really don't think about on a regular basis when it comes to going through a challenging situation with your teenager is, what are their blueprints? You hear me talk a lot about your blueprints. Every day I tell you about, you can choose to react from your same blueprints of stress, fear, and overwhelm, or you can stop, slow down, and choose love. Well, what are your teenager's blueprints? What are the experiences that they had from conception to 5? Now let's just keep it right there. From conception to 5 years old. Okay, before they came to you into your realm, into your universe, into your loving, nurturing home, and into your care, what was their experience from conception? As early as the 4th week after conception, the fetus is capable of hearing. As early as the 2nd trimester, the fetus is capable of psychological processing. So what was their experience prior to you that has established their blueprint, because John Bowlby says our first 3 years of life establishes the blueprints of all of our future relationships. But what we know now is that's actually from conception all the way up to the age of 5, because by the age of 5, the brain is, I think, almost 97% its full development. So what were their experiences that have hardwired them? Because when they get stressed, when they get really stressed, when stress escalates in your home, their brainstem's going to open up and it's going to get stirred up, just like your brainstem as the parent, like my brainstem as the adult gets stirred up and gets triggered. That then changes our view, changes our lens. But what you also don't realize is that it's not just those experiences that they've had, it's the fact that those experiences have literally programmed their cellular system. Those experiences have created a genetic code. It is a part of their DNA. Trauma changes the DNA, and that's how it gets passed down from one generation to the next. So you could have a child who, and I just did a 2-hour webinar presentation this morning entitled "When Grandma Becomes Mama" for a kinship department, in virtual. So you could have your child, you could be raising your child from the age of 2, and then by the age of 16, they're doing things similar to what your child, in a kinship placement, to what your child or what your sibling did when they were 16. Well, you're like, how is that happening? Or you have a teenager who has a predisposition towards tobacco or towards marijuana or towards alcohol. And you're like, well, we don't ever do that in our home. How's that happening? It's because they are encoded. They are encoded, and when they get stressed and that brainstem activates, it turns on that cellular experience. Now see, we want to take that personally, but when you start taking that personally, that moves you literally further away from your ability to really be able to have impact into the struggle they're having, instead of approaching it from a place of understanding. See, and that's the thing. We think that approaching something from a place of understanding is that you're condoning it in some way. And I'm not talking about condoning anything. I'm just talking about a different approach to modifying the behavior through influence as opposed to control, or influence as opposed to suppressing behavior, or influence over changing. Influence. Learn to think about what were your child's early blueprint experiences that have shaped and influenced their DNA before they ever came into your life. And now as a teenager, they're acting crazy, but how much of that craziness looks just like the craziness that they came from in utero, just like the craziness they came from in those first 5 years of life. And then as soon as you can do that, you're like, interesting. Maybe it isn't about me. Maybe it's not my fault. Maybe it's not about me not doing something good enough. Maybe it's not about me following Big Papa's love-based parenting approach. Maybe it's not about me, being stressed out and fearful. Maybe, just maybe, it's my child has hit a stage in their development where all of their DNA has gotten activated to mimic what they experienced earlier in their life. Woo, 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 woo. And guess what? We have the ability to influence it and shape that ourselves. Research has shown us and informed us that the environment is actually more powerful than genetic coding. The environment has the ability to shape the genes. But the problem is when our children come from chaos. When they come from chaos, and you think about a mother who's pregnant, who's maybe using drugs, maybe using alcohol, in a domestic violence situation, homeless, maybe has been raped, so has all kinds of chaotic emotional feelings, has to move. Maybe there's prostitution, maybe there's not enough nourishment, any number of things. Imagine how chaotic that experience is comparative to just the opposite of experience. The mother who has love and shelter and consistency and eats good food and sleeps every single night. How many of you know that your children, when they were with their biological parents, lived on the streets, and the parents did drugs, and when the mom was pregnant with the child, they stayed up for hours and days upon end, and then it totally disrupts their circadian rhythms. You have these experiences. When you understand and when you approach this from a place of understanding, not only can you have more empathy, not only can you first relax and move out of survival and realize it's not about you. It's about your ability to stay present and stay in relationship with your child, and consistently and through repetition dig deeper into relationship, and therefore be able to influence them in a stronger way. But you realize it's not about something you did. You did nothing wrong. It's about it's their autopilot setting. They just moved into autopilot, and so much what you end up fighting against is even outside of their control. They don't understand it. They just know they are driven and motivated to act and behave a certain way. And so when you start getting stressed out and you're fighting against them, when you're creating more stress, or when you're creating an equivalent stress, or when you're creating a power struggle, what you end up doing is reinforcing and supporting an already chaotic DNA. I want to say that again because it's so important. And it doesn't mean that we have less fear, because you can be fearful and you can be worried. But what it means is that when there is stress and fear present, and when your child is in a chaotic place, when you can slow yourself down enough, just at a very basic level, to realize that this is not an attack against you, this is not a threat to you, that eliminates 50% of the anxiety in the struggle. When you can slow down and back up and say to yourself and in your mind, wow, he or she is doing exactly what they experienced. Do you see how that just kind of went through me? That just went through me. That just went through someone else too. I just felt that. When you can stop and slow down, and you can back up and you can look at your child and say, wow, they are doing exactly what they experienced. When you can hold that perspective, you can say to your child in the midst of that chaos, sometimes after, sometimes before, wow, you're doing exactly what you experienced, and I'm really sorry for that. That makes me really sad. That makes me really angry, but you got to do what you got to do. Ooh, you're going to have to go through this pain and this struggle, but I love you. I'm going to see you through it. I'm going to be here. I'm going to be here when you come back home. I'm going to be here after you break stuff and you run away and you go to your room, you slam the door. I'm going to still be here because I know you got to go through this. And what I believe, what you're telling your child, what you believe, which is what I'm telling you that I know, is that you will get through it. And the power of your love and your presence will reshape their DNA. And it will change the generations moving forward. That's what I said to the kinship people today. You know, kinship workers, they work with grandparents, they work with, aunts and uncles who are raising their nieces and nephews, and family members who are raising their other family members. So people who are kin, who are related. What I said to them today is one of the things I've always said to parents is the work you're doing, just like the work you guys are doing, it's not about your kids. It feels like it's about your kids, but it's really not. It's about your grandchildren. The work you're doing today with your children is about your grandchildren. It is about how your children will parent your grandchildren. They may not even be here yet. But the seeds you sow today is going to be the harvest that you reap when your children become parents and you have grandchildren. That's the power of what we're talking about. The greater projection of all this is beyond just this experience with your child. it carries over into the generations. In any given moment, you can continue to react from the same blueprints of stress, fear, and overwhelm. Those blueprints reside within you. Or you can stop and you can slow down and you can breathe and you can choose love. And I hope in that moment, you can choose love, because that's going to make a difference in the generations to come. That's what we're doing, guys. We're breaking chains. We're breaking chains. With that, you guys are awesome. You rock. Big Papa loves you. God bless each and every one of you. Boom! See you tomorrow.